So, for a couple of different reasons, we haven't been able to do interviews after Kingstonian's last couple of games. A win against Hornchurch and then a defeat at Enfield last night. So we figured we'd just do a quick catch up with Hayden about those two games and a look ahead now. Hayden, let's start with last night. Get that out of the way. A pretty disappointing evening.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was, to be honest, Jamie. It's always disappointing to lose so late in the game, isn't it? It's a tough game. Going to Enfield, especially in midweek, is always going to test our mettle. There's no question of that. They're a formidable opponent. They're a very physical opponent. They have a way of playing that works for them. And it was always going to be a tough game. That said, it was a game that we thought that we could win, that we went into the game confident of getting a good result. So to lose so late in the game was a bitter pill to swallow, to be honest.
And is it frustrating as well that the two goals we've conceded are, two pretty soft goals from set pieces that I know there was some contention around the second decision for that free kick, but the first one looked like just a pretty poor tackle, and then and then that conceded so soon after half time, and then obviously the second goal so late as well. That must feel pretty frustrating. Yeah,
it did. We can talk about the referee. Let's talk about the referee a little later, because I think that he was quite a big part in the game for reasons that I'll explain. But in answer to your question, when you play teams like Enfield, and to be more specific, when you play Enfield, you have to defend your penalty area very well. You have to pick up second balls because they are direct. And if you give away needless free kicks, you're going to be punished. It's something that we spoke about in preparation to the game. It's something that we spoke about before the game. It's something that we spoke about at half time. Enfield are a team that live on percentages, and with the players, I liken it to being a boxer. If you keep allowing the balls to go in the box, if you keep giving away needless free kicks, it's a boxer that is taking the jab on the chin, and he's okay, but before you know it, he's taken one jab too many, and in the case of the boxers hit the canvas. In the case of the football team, the opponents have scored. So when you work really hard in preparation not to give away needless free kicks and you lose 2 goals from free kicks, is really frustrating. In fairness to the players, I don't think the second goal was a foul. I think it was a mistake by the linesman. The linesman indicated and flagged for the referee, and they scored from it. So we can criticise how we defended the ball into the box. But I really think that it was really disappointing decision by the officials that presented Enfield with that chance.
Yeah, it did seem notable. Obviously, a lot of Kingstonian fans were at the other end, so I didn't particularly see the foul, but it was definitely notable that it was the linesman who gave that decision. But I understand that a lot of your frustrations from the game were centred on other decisions that the referee made.
Yeah, in order for the best team to win, I think that the referees have a part to play in that. Now, we know that when we play teams such as Enfield, that they're going to be physically very strong. We know that, we understand that. And, Andy has done a really solid job at Enfield, and he's created a really solid unit that, every season Enfield are up there challenging for the playoffs. This season, I'm sure, will be no different, because like the Hornchurch players, they have players like Brittenell, they have players like Witherstone. They know their way around the football pitch. However, let's get it right. I can tell you, and you guys may have noticed it, that there were 4 off-the-ball occasions where Corey Andrews was elbowed, punched, kicked, pretty much it happened in the middle of the road, you would say was assaulted. Now, this is where perhaps we are a little naive. So I've come away from the game yesterday and I've looked at the referee's crime sheet, and they have had one player booked and we have had two players booked. Yet Corey Andrews comes away from the game with a suspected broken cheekbone. Thankfully, it's not the case, but that is a result of a player's elbow, not on one occasion, but on 3 occasions. So at half-time, when I say to them, because we are not a team that surround the referee, he's got to get sent, he's got to get sent off. People are getting away with it. Now, I know that players are cute, and I know that the referees can't have eyes in the back of their head. But I said to the referee at half-time, there have been 3 or 4 occasions off the ball, to which he acknowledged, and he said, I know, I'm aware of it, and I will make sure I improve upon that in the second half. I don't understand if he's aware of it, what the players are doing on the pitch. You would have seen Enfield, you would have seen Hornchurch. They are experienced players, and they're part of their game plan, rightly or wrongly, I'm not judging it, is to influence the referee. Now, let me give you another example. Jared Small, in front of the dugout, absolutely cleaned out Harry Osborne. Jared immediately turned to me and said, oh, it wasn't on purpose. I didn't do it deliberately. And our players, being nice Surrey lads, they don't say anything. 30 seconds later, Jared Small dives in the penalty area. Our players don't say anything. Jared Small's not booked. 2 minutes later, Kenny Beanie, I think, makes a pretty innocuous challenge. The referee is entirely surrounded by the Hornchurch player. He gets booked. Okay, some people say it's gamesmanship. I get it. And I'm not being critical to Enfield. All I'm saying is that you don't get anything in football for being nice, and we have to be a little bit more streetwise when we set foot in that environment. And we have to understand that it's not about going and showing our ability with the ball. It's about standing up for yourself and making sure that, you know, when we need to be nasty and when we need to be streetwise, we are. We wasn't last night, and I think that naivety was, to some degree, our undoing.
We talked a little bit about the goals we conceded last night. Obviously, Corey, once again, has basically created something out of nothing for our goal, but didn't feel like we created much else going forward last night. What was the problem at that end of the pitch?
The problem with that is that we wasn't good enough with the ball. And I think that not dissimilar, this time last season, I think after 7-8 league games, we went to Worthing. And I remember having a chat with a few of the supporters in the bar, and they said to me, when's this sexy football coming then? We haven't really seen it yet. And they were right, to be fair, and they were right, they haven't seen it. But you saw in the coming weeks, we continue to work and improve. And I don't think we found our levels with the ball. I don't think we're close to have found our levels with the ball. If you look at the performances at Merstham, at Wingate, at Hornchurch, I think there's a 20-minute spell in Hornchurch when we were good with the ball. But other than that, I think that we've won games through discipline and desire and a huge spirit on the football pitch. It's not the first time I've said this to you. Now, there's a reason for that. And the reason is obviously the first 8 days, we started very badly. And you can't, in football, if you're at A, you can't get to D before going through B and C. So you needed to build things up a little bit. But yesterday, I wanted the players to be braver. Now, in football, there's two types of bravery. There's the bravery of the players that will put their head in when there's boots flying everywhere, that will make that last-ditch challenge, that will put their bodies on the line. We get that, and we've seen that. But I want the players to be brave in a different way, because I know that if we play Enfield and it becomes a battle, the likelihood is that we're going to lose. The average height of Kingstonian is probably 5'10". The average height of Enfield is probably 6'2" and probably 1.5 stone heavier. So we're not going to win that physical battle. We have to win it in a different way by closing the pitch down and winning the second ball by getting numbers around the ball, as opposed to one-on-one physical battles. But we need to be braver in possession. We need, I think at times, you saw Simon Cooper, for example, who's pivotal to what we're doing. He made a technical mistake in the first couple of minutes, if you remember, where I think it was Bricknell went through and Rob come out, closed the angles, and Bricknell put it wide. Now I want Simon to be brave. I want Simon to continue to get on the ball and to make sure we're passing the ball through the pitch. I want the midfield players to come and accept the ball with a body shape that allows them to be brave with the ball. There's one thing accepting the ball from the back players with a body shape that allows the passes to go sideways and backwards. There's another dynamic of accepting the ball from the back players where we're opening our shoulders, which allows us predominantly to play forward and work through the pitch. That's what we didn't do well enough. Consequently, if Simon and the back players are not being so brave on the ball, and at times they're going a little long, and the midfield players' body shape is not allowing us to play through the pitch, it becomes very difficult to service the likes of Tom Richards and Cadell and Corey to work through the thirds to create the chances that we needed to. Definitely that was something that we didn't do very well yesterday. Definitely something that we can improve upon, that we're aware of, that we will work very hard on, and that we will get right.
Let's briefly talk about Hornchurch on Saturday. I thought it was a pretty even, pretty ugly first half at times, but was the second half the best we've played so far this season?
A very wise man said to me, Hornchurch got Hornchurched.
Great match report, that. Great match report.
Absolutely. It was right. I think that Hornchurch wasn't dissimilar to yesterday. Hornchurch, again, have players like Chris Dixon, have players like Ricky Hales that know their way around the football pitch. Physically very strong. Rely on second balls. Rely on percentages, probably, rather than creative technical players like we've got. But Hornchurch was our best performance. And to be more specific than that, in the second half, Kingstonian become Kingstonian. Kingstonian becomes synonymous with one of my teams, I think it's fair to say. And the game changer was definitely Tom Howard. You know, I can imagine from the stands, from the terraces, the game is even. We're probably edging the game. I think we're in control. But it's 0-0 and Elliot Buchanan comes off and the midfield player comes on. Football is football and people will be asking questions why. But that change allowed us to control the game. It was no reflection on Elliot, who incidentally, like Jerry, was not available last night. They weren't fit. Tom Howard gave us that extra passing midfield and a different dynamic of a number 10 that is going to instinctively play forward and instinctively draw players out and instinctively drive into the areas if he can't manipulate the ball. And in fairness to Tom, I think that the 3 points that we won in a really good second half performance was spearheaded by Tom Howard. And I very much hope that his circumstances away from Kingstonian will quickly allow us to make sure he's a regular on the team sheet.
Yeah, and I mean, in particular, I get your point about his all-round play when he came on, but in particular, his work for that second goal was, as good as an individual piece of, certainly as good an individual assist as I've seen at Cage for a long time.
Well, I think, Jay, this is what everybody must understand. Sometimes in games like that, I ask the players to be brave. I've explained to you how I want the players to be brave. And this is where I like to be brave, because I could have maintained a relative control, played with Elliot, hoped for the goal, but I decided to be brave. I decided to make what is a big call, because Elliot is proven at this level. He's an important player in the dressing room. But I wanted to play with a different dynamic. Now, that was the different dynamic, that Elliot can drop in, he can help us in the approach play, but he is a traditional number 9. The beauty of the squad is that Tom allowed me to ask Hornchurch a different question. How is Ricky Hales going to cope if suddenly he's got a player coming from deep areas running at him? And that's really what happened. A great piece of individual skill by Tom Howard, a great assist, and a really good finish by Cadell to boot.
Briefly, just want to ask about Gus. I watched the game from a slightly different angle on Saturday and was on the side for a change. And I thought second half in particular, his work off the ball and then his driving forward with the ball were excellent. Is he suffering a little bit this season from almost being shifted around as players are unavailable a little bit? And he's playing in the middle on Saturday, he's playing on the right last night. Is that making things tricky for him?
Could be a very fair point. And I think, as you rightly say, I don't think that is a result of tinkering. I think tinkering is the term that's used in football.
You're trying to compare yourself to a different Chelsea manager now.
Good one. I like Claudio. I don't think that is a result of unnecessary changes. Then let's call it more of circumstances. And if we looked at the team yesterday, Tom Howard isn't available, Elliot isn't available, and so actually there isn't another centre forward in the club at the moment. So we played 4-2-3-1. Kenny is available, so I think probably against a very physical Enfield team, it makes sense for Kenny and Tom Kavanagh to protect the back players, to compete for the second ball, to support the ball from behind the ball. Gus then to suffocate Enfield by playing in an inside right position, and then Cadell plays a traditional 10. Something that we've done loads of times. Last season it was with Dan Bennett at times, sometimes it's with Gus. Merstham got into the top 4 with Gus playing in that position, so it's a position he knows very well. But the point is a good one. Gus's position as a traditional number 8 has been very good. I think probably that is his best position. And because he's versatile, he's been a little bit of a victim of that to try and help the team of late.
Yeah, and you mentioned the kind of changes that have been in the team. It feels like, there have been almost 2 or 3 changes to the lineup every week, every game, which very much wasn't the case last season. How frustrating has it been to deal with that? And I guess, to some extent that's down to injury and availability, but is there a little bit where you're still searching for the right formula?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you looked at day one in Cray, we played 4-2-3-1. We played with the same idea as what we played Cray previously. The truth is that it become a very stretched 4-3-3. And so we then moved into the Horsham game with more of a discipline Gus actually played very well on the inside right position, if you recall that day, and used the pockets to really drive at people. I thought he did very well that day. Then we have Gus suspended. Then, of course, we have injuries. Then, of course, we go into the Wingate and Finchley game and we just simplify things a little bit. Let's get a couple of results on the board, make it easier for the players, make the game a little more straightforward. And then slowly, and we saw in Hornchurch, we're evolving and developing the team to get back to what they normally do. So, yes, has there been too many changes? I think so. I think it's a combination of injuries, unavailabilities, and also trying to find the right solutions. But what I will say is, you know, I said to the players when we lost to Worthing that there was loads of managers out there that they lose 3 games and they throw the baby out with the bathwater and you're not good enough and you're not good enough and you're not good enough. And before you know it, there's 4 players out and there's 4 players in. And I assured everybody we wasn't doing that because everybody was good enough, but we needed to work but we needed to improve. And we saw that. And I think we've been taking really big steps forward. And yesterday was frustrating. It was frustrating because we wanted to win. We wanted to move into the top 5 and be joint in second place after the end of the game. And we made mistakes. And as a result of those mistakes, we didn't get the result that we wanted to. So, yes, we need to settle it down. But yes, we also need to improve.
Let's look ahead to Saturday. Bowers and Pitsea obviously had a good start to the season. They probably weren't one of the names that a lot of people were talking about in pre-season based off on how they'd done last season, but they've started well. Seems like they've recruited quite a good squad. What do you make of Saturday's game, and what about some of the players that were missing last night and their kind of availability for Saturday?
Yeah, I think the Bowers and Pitsea were a team that the supporters weren't talking about, and a team that the managers and the coaches in the game were talking about, because there has been quite a significant investment in Bowers and Pitsea, and I think a lot of people feel as though they might be a bit of a wild card. They might be the team that challenges and surprises a few people. And certainly their early season form has indicated that. There's no doubt about it. So we're going into the game knowing it's going to be a difficult game. But it's a great game to go into because they're a team that are just above us. And so we will take over them if we win. We want to learn. We're going to work hard Thursday to prepare for what's going to be a very different game to the last 2. There's no doubt about that. With regard to the players, I don't think Andre will be available. Andre was rushed to hospital on Sunday evening with suspected meningitis. Now, thankfully, he's got the all clear from that, but he's not very well at all. And I don't think he'll be in the right physical conditions to play for a good couple of weeks yet. He's not been out of bed for the last week. So he's not very well. We certainly wish him a speedy recovery. Elliot has an issue with his back, which we're hoping he's going to be right for Saturday, even though, you know, back injuries are always injuries that you need to be cautious with. And so it's not something that we can rush. You know, the medical team will try and get him right. I can't say at the moment whether he's going to be fit or whether he's not. Jerry won't be available. Jerry's got 1 or 2 issues away from football with his family and illness, which will keep him away from the club, I would suspect, for another week or so. So unfortunately, Jerry won't be available. And I think that Fabio will be very doubtful. Fabio picked up actually an injury before the game yesterday. It was really unfortunate that the squad travelled, and at 6 o'clock, through no fault of his own, Jerry had to withdraw from the squad. By 6:30, Elliot had failed a fitness test. At 7:15, Fabio had rolled his ankle. Jamie did a great job on him. Fabio wanted to play, by the way, declared himself fit. And we hope he'll be okay, because you would say naturally the replacement for Fabio would be Tom Richards, and you can bring Andre Coker in. We denied that opportunity. So you would say, well, okay, we can put Jerry at left back and go with a more physical defensive mindset on that side of the pitch. That's not available to us. But, you know, this is football. There's no point crying about the injuries. Everybody's going to get injuries, particularly this season, because there's a lot of games in a short space of time, and there's no doubt about it. The players that will set foot on the football pitch on Saturday will be good enough to win for Kingstonian, and we'll be doing everything we can to do that.
Just finally, I know you were down at the Fossil Cup on Sunday. Brian obviously predates your time at Kingstonian, and he hasn't been around so much while you've been here. But how special an occasion was that, and how much of a priority was it for you to be there?
Oh, I had to be there. There was no doubt I was always going to be there, and I thought it showed what a tremendous club Kingstonian is. And I've said many times it's a privilege and an honour to manage this club. And there's a great example of the reasons why on Sunday. And let me tell you, I transferred that to all the players. And I look back at how special this club is, and I look back at players that have represented the club nearly 12, 15 years ago, and they come back and they wore the shirts, and the support and the love that they got from the supporters was something very special. And I walked away from that game with a massive motivation to think that, you know, here was one team that I think was promoted from the Ryman South, and another team that has won the Surrey Senior Cup. And those players are a part of our history, and those players deserve amazing respect, and those players have been a part of our story. But I want my teams to create much more significant silverware than that. And my motivation is that we will be remembered and loved in the same way as all of those players in many years to come, because we've created history for this football club. And there was no finer motivation to do that than what I saw on Sunday.
Right. Well, let's hope some of that starts on Saturday as we go to Bowers. Maybe not the most glamorous place for such a run, but we'll see. Hayden, thanks for your time. We'll see you Saturday.
My pleasure. Thank you.